Hey, what's up, man? How you been doing?
Dude, I'm surviving in a hostile world right now,
Yeah.
but it's all good.
Family all good?
Yeah, family's good. How about yours?
All good, man.
You're good.
Wife, son, daughter, everybody great. You're still there. You're still
Like,
there.
likewise, all the kids are doing well. God bless, and just keep moving on.
So what you been up to?
Just following the news, man, trying to figure out what's going on. I mean, so many multiple events out there between COVID, politics, Black Lives Matter, and all this. So it's just a lot of layers of stuff that keeps piling on and stuff, and it's just just trying to make sense of it all. This issue with it's kind of old news right now, but it's really not old news because it's still going on with Breonna Taylor. Um, I am. I took some time to kind of do my research on that. Listening to the Attorney General's assessment of what happened, and just trying to piece together the operation that went into kicking in her door and shooting her and what happened and all that. And not that I'm trying to find fault, but I'm trying to find what happened and what should have happened. I guess from my perspective is I'm looking at this is that I look at certain individuals in this whole dynamic or certain agencies in this dynamic that I think were remiss in their duties. Um, Number one, why are you doing a warrant in a household at 1:30 in the morning to someone who is a bona fide hero? She's an EMT. In a pandemic, I mean, you could have given her the benefit of the doubt. You could have saw her in the morning time. You could have caught her when she was walking in the house. But you came into her house at 1:30 at night, and you know, and again, she's a hero. You know, there's some controversy whether it was a no knock or a regular warrant, but I've known times when my burglar alarm has went off in the night, and it took me time to wake up to actually recognize the alarm was on. If someone's knocking on my door in the middle of the night or 1:30 in the morning, and they claim that they announce themselves, I may have not heard them.
If you're asleep, probably not.
Probably not. And then you take a battering ram, you knock the door down, and then the boyfriend of Brianna engages, as most people would when you kick their door in, and then next thing you know, she's got 6 bullets in her. And so, from an operational point of view, I'm like, who planned this out? The Attorney General said, he said the guys who served the warrant didn't have any background in the case. They were just given a job, go serve, just do serve this warrant, and go check on drugs or whatever in the house and stuff based on some intel they had. So my issue is, who, you as an operator, I mean, a hardcore operator, you know that from the get-go, the planning stage about an operation is something that will make or break an operation. Well, in this case, it broke it. And, so you kick in the door and somebody engages you. But on top of that, you have someone outside who doesn't have target acquisition on anything, and they start shooting blatantly into the apartment, into a residential area. And so I'm like, okay, that's a major fault there. Officer who kicked the door in, or the officers, well, by their training and by rules of engagement, if I'm shot, I can shoot back.
I get that.
And I get that, but my issue is that how many times they knock on the door, how many times they announce themselves. I mean, it's so many things they could have done ahead of time, but they just went in with a minimal amount of intel, about what was going on. And here's my critical piece, right? And this is something that people may not agree with, but if I'm defending my household, if I'm defending my woman, my family, my household, they're going to be in a secure place where I engage with this. Somebody's banging on that door, I'm going to be the first person there. My wife or my kids are going to be under the bed or someplace safe, and not going to be next to me. And keep in mind, I'm playing Monday morning quarterback here. I don't know the layout of the house and whatever, but my issue is my first priority is to protect her. So I'm upset with the operation, how it was planned. I am upset with the guy who was shooting indiscriminately into a house, and I'm upset with the individual who's supposed to be protecting his woman, because I don't think he did his job. You know, so may not be the most popular viewpoint, but that's my viewpoint.
Well, I don't know. I think, obviously I'm not a professional law enforcement guy, but I think the goal is to get the job done in the simplest manner. I'm thinking the simplest matter was they knew who she was. It wouldn't have been that hard to find out where she worked at. It wouldn't have been that hard to find out when did she get off that day. They just could have waited right there in the parking lot. I mean, she has a driver's license. I'm guessing she's got a car. You know, they could check the DMV. They knew her car. They could have known what kind of car she drives. So they just could have waited until she got home.
Yeah.
And as soon as she steps out of her car, they could have walked in and they could have identified themselves as law enforcement officers in a normal time during the day, 3, 4, 5 o'clock in the afternoon while the sun was still up.
Yeah.
We have a warrant for your arrest. Excuse me. We have a warrant where we can search the premises. They show it to her, and they could have walked in the house with her. Okay. I mean, we know that after the fact, she wasn't a drug dealer. She wasn't somebody who broke the law. So, where she might not have been overly pleased about it, she might have let them come in her home, look around and look for whatever it was they were looking for. They wouldn't have found anything because it was noted that they didn't find anything after they went through what they went through. And then they could have left and the officer didn't get shot and she's still alive. That's my big thing right there. You know, and like I said, I'm not a professional, but I could have figured that out because what happened, one of their own did get shot and they wound up killing an innocent civilian when that could have all been avoided.
The hero.
I mean, they didn't have to do that at 1 o'clock because she wasn't a dangerous person. She wasn't a threat to society. It wasn't like they had to come in there guns blazing because, like you said, she was a paramedic. She was an EMT. She's a first responder.
Studying to be a nurse.
You know, granted, I guess I did read it after the fact that she did at one time date a guy who apparently was in the drug game, but they had arrested him earlier in the day. So that's my big thing with that. Yes, no doubt.
Here's my piece with you. You say you're not a professional.
Not a law enforcement professional.
Well, okay, but then again, you understand how to plan operations. How many operations did you plan in Iraq? 100 plus operations. All right.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. So my issue is you understand the seriousness, the criticality of planning an op properly to protect everybody. Your men, collateral damage, and so forth. You know, you want to make sure this goes as smooth as possible. This sounds like a phone call like, hey, serve the warrant. No intel, no background, no nothing.
I can't argue that it wasn't planned very well. Like I said, I take exception with why did it have to be done at that time of the night. You know, if they were going to knock on a door, they should have just knocked on the door and waited till somebody opened it. If they were knocking on the door.
Yeah.
You know, if you're going to knock on the door, let somebody open the door.
Let someone open the door.
If you're going to kick the door in, just kick the door in.
Just if it's a no-knock warrant, kick the door.
Then don't knock.
Don't knock.
Don't knock yourself because.
But Attorney General said it was not a no-knock warrant. It was a regular warrant. So my issue is keep knocking until someone.
Well, then if it's a regular warrant, why'd they kick the door?
I don't know. But I mean, my issue is, I get the sense that they understand that we messed this up totally, which is why the family was awarded $12 million. But at the end of the day, it's like, something needs to happen with
They
it.
didn't pay him $12 million because they did everything right.
Hey, there you go.
I'm sure of that.
There you go.
I'm sure of
Exactly. But, you know, that's only one of a number of things that are happening in life right now.
But then if you look, if I'm not mistaken, the Louisville Metro Police Department, during the time, I think immediately after, I could be mistaken, after the George Floyd murder, which is what it was, a murder, I want to say there was some things that went on in Louisville, and none of the cops involved had on their body cams, which I believe caused the at that point in time, the standing police chief to resign. Because, you know, I mean, and I'm pretty sure that's all based on the police union. And they protect their own. They tell them guys, I don't care If they issue you cameras, I don't care if they tell you it's mandatory you wear them. Don't wear them. We got you. If things blow up in your face and you get hemmed up, do not turn the camera on, and we will defend you for not wearing the camera.
It's funny you mentioned that because that's one of the things I researched and today. It's like nobody can. You're going to someone's house at 1:30 in the morning and you have no body cam. So yeah, I think procedurally, operationally, there was some major screw ups there, and I think the Attorney General recognized that, and that's why the family was awarded the $12 million. This is not sympathy, but I have a bit of concern for the officers there because I didn't have any kind of intel. I don't have no concern for the guy who was outside shooting. But the ones who came through the door with a minimal amount of intel, it's like, you didn't give me enough information to execute this warrant properly. And thus, I put myself, I put innocent civilians, and ultimately, I was forced to kill someone because of a badly planned op. So I'm beside myself because she was not only a person, but a productive element of society, a bona fide hero, an EMT, and now she's dead.
Like I say, this is why, or this is my understanding of when they talk about Black Lives Matter. This situation did not have to end that way. Her life matters. It's not, something that even $12 million doesn't cure. Her family doesn't have her. I don't care if it was $100 million. Her life matters, and it was snuffed out unnecessarily. It didn't have to go that way.
You know what? I agree 100%, but this is not reflective of the George Floyd situation. George Floyd was murdered in public with a measure of audacity and arrogance that just, I can't believe. You sat there on video and you basically murdered a man and laughed at it while you were doing it.
Okay, yeah, everybody saw that. Over 8 minutes, everybody saw that. But the similarity is that 2 people are dead unnecessarily through horrible police work. That's the similarity there. Yeah, one was more graphic than the other, but had the police conducted themselves in a different fashion, we're not talking about either one of these incidents.
But you're talking horrible police work. I'm talking a murder as opposed to bad police work. This was a bona fide murder.
However you call it.
Yeah.
Both people are dead.
True that.
Murder, accident, justified shooting. 2 people are dead unnecessarily through horrible police work.
Agreed. Yeah, we can agree on it. Let's flip the switch for a minute, man. I've been following this issue with the governor of Michigan, who was targeted for kidnapping and assassination.
I believe her name was Whitmer.
Whitmer, yeah. And some kind of militia group by the name of the Wolverine Watchmen.
I used to live in Michigan.
Really?
Yeah.
So hey, I'm just saying, it's just like, and I did some research on this, and I'm like, number one is like, I was trying to figure out what's their issue, and it came out as 2 issues. And keep in mind, your research has to be fact checked, and I went as far as I could on this, but maybe I didn't fact check it properly. But their issue was with the COVID-19 situation, economics, along with the violence that was happening with Black Lives Matter, and they're concerned. They didn't like the lockdown orders, didn't like the economics of their businesses or whatever, or the people in general. I mean, who did, and they felt so strongly about that they wanted to kidnap and assassinate the governor. Now, these are some of the same guys that stormed the Capitol building in Michigan, basically with arms to the Capitol building, which is
Did they storm it, or did they just kind of occupy the front steps?
Okay, I'll say occupy the front steps, but when you come to how would that work out if I did that in D.C. and I came with AR-15s with combat gear.
If you did,
so
you did not well. We're probably not having this conversation.
We're not having this conversation, right? Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, for that matter, for any place. I mean, if we did the same thing, we're not having this conversation right now. But my kudos to the government for playing as cool as she can to avoid escalating the situation. But these guys they had surveillance on their house. They had a detailed plan to blow up bridges, to prevent the police force from coming in time, and not just targeting her, but they were also targeting police officers in this. So my issue is, these are bona fide terrorists. These are bona fide terrorists who are going after a government official to assassinate her. So I'm flabbergasted, to say the least.
Well, after the first presidential debate, that was one of several times where the commander-in-chief has emboldened these people to action. Okay? He said, I think at some point in time that certain states needed to be liberated from the measures put in place to quell the spread of the pandemic. He was telling folks to liberate the states as though they were under lockdown or they were under duress, that they needed to be liberated. And he was speaking to groups like the Wolverine Watchmen and groups like that, paramilitary organizations, militias, and groups of that nature, to take things into their own hand. Which is, I'm saying, had they done that, that's a treasonous act.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's a very treasonous act, and it's. I guess, in my research, one thing I found out was that the Wolverine Watchmen are opposed to all government, to all law enforcement, to include the commander-in-chief. So
he's government.
He's government. He's government. So I mean, it's like, no matter what he said, that they don't like him either. So it's and they're part of an overall group called the Boogaloo Movement, where you have a number of militias who are out there who are coordinating with each other. But their issue is about lawlessness, or in the sense of, we want civil war, we want social unrest, we want to go back to we want to live the way we want to live. And correct me on that if you feel on this YouTube video, but I mean, it's like, that was based on my research, and if my research is flawed on that, which I don't think it is, by all means check me on that. But my issue is, I'm just flabbergasted that someone would have the audacity to plan an op against a government official like that, and it just makes me wonder what's next.
Well, during the president's debate, he sent out some type of clarion call to, not a name escapes me. He spoke to an organization like the Wolverine Watchmen. He told them to stand back and stand by, and stand back, something like that. He spoke to them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Essentially saying, hey, just wait and see, and as though I will give you the word when you need to act. So he speaks to these organizations. I'm talking about the commander-in-chief. He speaks to these organizations. He refuses to speak bad about them. He refuses to denounce what they do because they're part of his base. Them folks vote for him. He wants them to continue to vote for them. So he's not going to ever say anything bad about what to do, even if it is un-American, which is no doubt that's what it is. If you're making a plot to kidnap or to harm a government politician, that's an anti-American act. And yet, he will never say anything bad against that. So he's pretty much giving them the green light or encouragement, or he's not saying what he needs to stop them from doing what they do. They think that he's an ally. They think that he's on their side. They silence denotes consent. He's not saying nothing bad about them, so they feel, hey, what we're doing is supported by him.
I'm going to come on this in a different way. My issue is the power of words. And
words have power.
Words are extremely powerful when you're not making a definitive decision about a particular situation. And you're either empowering people or you're restricting people. But you have to be very careful with the power of words. which is why in that position, I think you have to be very careful you have to be very careful and choose your words extremely well, because the confusion that you can cause, or the direction that you can give people, it can incite what you just saw in Michigan.
Okay. Yeah, you're right about the power of words and being clear in the message that you're sending. But also, what you don't say can scream as loud or louder than what you do say.
Agreed.
Okay. It doesn't take a professional speaker or whatever, or somebody who has a great use of the English language to tell somebody, hey, what you're doing is wrong. What you're doing is un-American. What you're doing is illegal. You don't have to say that. And, I have to believe that the commander-in-chief is at least smart enough to know, what he says or what he is not saying. So it wasn't an accident. It wasn't a mistake. He didn't misspeak. He knew exactly what he was doing. He knew exactly exactly who he was speaking to. And that was the means that he wanted. By him saying those words to that organization, he is in a sense speaking to every organization with similar ideology. He's saying the same thing to them. I understand your point of view. I understand why you want to do what you do, and go for it. That's what he's saying.
In the military, they taught us to be tactically and technically proficient. Basically, you have to know what you're doing, how you're saying it, how you plan it, and how you do it. And that kind of scares me, because I don't know if this is off the cuff response to things, or something that is strategically planned in the back of somebody's mind, or it's I don't know, or it's just an absence of understanding the power of your words and the intent of your words. I don't know. I mean, that's something I'm not having a hard time understanding.
He knows exactly what he's saying. This is not an accident. He didn't misspeak. Because had he misspoken, he'd had plenty of time to correct himself. Now, some of the folks on his staff or his spokesman have been trying to smooth it out or make it look or sound not as bad as it was. But he's had more than enough time to issue a statement that nullifies what he said earlier, or to, if he felt that what he was trying to say was misinterpreted or didn't come out the way he wanted, he's had more than enough time to say, hey, it's not what I meant. This is what I really do mean. He's had more than enough time to do that, and he hasn't done it. So I have to believe that's what he means.
I'm going to shift gears here for a minute, because you're bringing up something that I've always thought, particularly when it comes to the COVID-19 situation. I'm looking at how countries around the world have dealt with this. And if there ever was a time for draconian measures up front to address an issue, I think the Commander-in-Chief was uniquely, his mindset, his dynamic would have been perfect for that. And
You mean he was the perfect guy to implement draconian measures?
Oh yes, by all means, by all
What
means.
didn't he do? All we had to do was social distance and wear a mask and cut down, close down certain areas where people could not do social distancing. We probably would have been a lot better off than right now, in excess of 200,000 lives lost. I mean, I think he's leading by example, a horrible example, by not wearing a mask. I've even heard that he didn't want or allow his staff members, when they were sitting in meetings, to wear a mask. I mean, I don't understand that. He was putting those people at risk. You don't want to wear a mask? Okay. How are you going to make people around you not wear a mask? I mean, I think somebody on Marine One's got COVID. A bunch of his staff folks got COVID. A bunch of high-ranking military folks in the Pentagon that regularly go between the Pentagon and the White House are getting it. And that's all because, he didn't wear a mask. People that were supporting him and helping him prep for the first debate got it. I mean, it's real simple. We didn't need draconian measures. Just wear a damn mask and social distance. We've been much better off. He could have led by example.
But I mean, the enforcement from him could have addressed this issue up front a whole lot better than it has been addressed. And I kind of go back to military. I remember I saw Colin Powell give a briefing one time about fighting war. and this is kind of a biological attack on us, you know. And he said, look, he said, you don't play anymore. You know, if there's a net, you want to take a sledgehammer and hit that net, but you want to go in hard and fast, but you want to end it. My issue is with draconian measures, you go hard and fast at the beginning of it. Then at this particular point, we could have been living a normal life, but yet this is dragging on more and more and more and more. So I'm just a little bit, you know, someone who had the skill set and the demeanor to do that. I mean, to come across with these hardcore measures to address this issue, I'm just kind of a little bit confused as to why it didn't happen.
Well, I don't know that we could have stopped it. This thing was going to run its course. There are other countries on the face of the earth that have handled it better than we have.
Mm-hmm.
And they still had a bunch of folks that got infected. They still had people that lost their lives. And, you know, with the second wave coming, you know, they're being impacted by this. So I don't think that it was something that was going to go away. Okay, yeah, the numbers probably wouldn't be as high if things were done differently. But this is a pandemic, man. This is beyond our control.
I don't think it's going to go away, but you could mitigate this a whole lot better. I'm looking at South Korea, Germany, you know, other countries in Europe and stuff, you know, who address this in such a way where it's like, you know, there was a national strategy to address the issue. And it's like, and I just think the Commander-in-Chief was uniquely, I'll say, gifted, you know, to be able to implement those strategies and say, hey, look, you know what, you know, you're going to do this or else. But I saw kind of a gray area response on this where it's like there was no definitive strategy to say we're going to do this. You know, so it's, I don't know, I mean, I just say that I'm flabbergasted by the whole issue, you know, I'll leave it at that.
So here we are. I guess we're into the start of flu season. And I want to say, you know, when this first started, I did some reading. I think each year, more than 20,000 people every year die to the flu. Now that's every year.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and I know a bunch of people who don't take the flu vaccine ever anyway, for whatever the reason. So guess what?
Mm-hmm.
If they do come out with a COVID vaccine, the people who don't get the flu vaccine probably not going to take that vaccine either because they just don't take vaccine and or lack of trust, or they'll say they produced it too early, they don't have enough time to have a long-term side effect. So if they came out with a vaccine, everybody's not going to take it now anyway. So we're still going to have to wear masks and social distance for quite some time.
Agreed. Well, I guess what I want to say here on a personal note is that, you know, if you're watching this is serious, COVID-19. I have a brother and his wife who have contracted COVID-19 for the second time.
Really?
Yeah, really.
Both of them for the second time?
Second time. And I'm concerned, and I've had friends, my wife has had friends who have died from it. So you may catch it one time and feel like, well, it's no big deal. Quite honestly, during the outbreak, back in February, March, I was in New York, me and my wife both, and got, I mean, just terribly sick with all the different symptoms of COVID. At the time, there weren't no tests, there were very few test kits to test us out, but we quarantined, you know, we did what we were supposed to do. We looked at, you know, how ways to mitigate it, and we worked it, you know, but it was no joke. But, you know, we both work out, we try to stay healthy, eat healthy and so forth and all that, but my issue is this can kill you. And as you walking around without a mask, where you feel like, you know, that, hey, you know, this is just a hoax, it's not a hoax.
Well, I lost a cousin. I lost a friend to COVID. My neighbor recently recovered from a bout with, you know, the virus. So it's real. I have to believe with, I think, over 7 million cases in the United States, you know, over 200,000 deaths due to COVID, that everybody knows it's real. Mm-hmm. It's not a hoax. It's not fake. It's real. Everybody knows about it. I just think that as Americans, we're spoiled. We want the creature comforts back that come as a benefit of living here in the United States. We want to go back to movies. We want to go back to games. We want to go back to our restaurants, our bar. We want to do all the stuff we did, all the things that make this the land of milk and honey. We want to go back and do those things. And I think it's all being made harder because the leader of the free world has refused to acknowledge it, refuses to wear a mask, and people are following his example. And that's what's made it work. It makes no sense we're not the most populous, the most dense country on the face of the earth, for us to have the most deaths. That doesn't make any sense. That makes no that right there. That makes no sense. That means there's something that we're not doing, and I think very simply we're not executing the simplest measures to avoid this: social distance and wear masks.
It kind of nerves me when I'm walking around. I see people that don't wear a mask, or you're in the shopping center and stuff and not wearing masks. Because I hate wearing masks. I am somewhat claustrophobic. So the mask puts me in that claustrophobic mode. It makes you palpitate a little bit and stuff with me. But in the same breath, I embrace the suck. I mean, I do what I have to do. I have a mission to protect myself, to protect my family, to protect people around me. We wear the mask. So, I have little respect for people who refuse to wear the mask. And, if it was just you, fine. If you want to put your life at risk, so be it. But the issue is, it's not just you, So be respectful, be kind to other people, care about your fellow man.
Well, I keep masking my vehicle. Okay, I keep masking my motorcycle. But still, there's been several times I've walked into a store or a place of business, whatever, and I gotta turn around because I forgot my mask.
At least you're willing to turn around and go get your mask. I see people. We were in Costco one day, and the lady came in with the mask and took it off. And the employee said, "Look, man, you gotta put your mask on." She laughed at him and walked away.
I mean, there's been all kind of incidents on on various videos and whatnot, or talking folks fighting security guards or staff or whatever,
Yeah.
just over being told to wear a mask and their refusal to do it. So I mean, I don't get that.
It's a lack of discipline.
I don't get that.
It's a straight up lack of discipline, But hey, look, I think it's about that time, and we want to welcome you to
The Unpopular View. Thanks for watching.